Greetings, everyone. Rambling Collector here with another Halloween review for everyone. Today we shall be discussing the novella Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Khaw, and I think this one will grab your all's attention quite well. Let's get started. So, at a nice 124 pages, this story was in fact very interesting, and a nice little tidbit of horror, if I may say so myself. To be quite honest, I like how this one actually established a very nice little bit of Japanese folklore, more specifically with yokai. Now, our main instigator here, our main ghost, if you will, is the Ohagoro Batari. Let me explain. The Ohagoro Batari, or Ohagoro, is described as a Japanese yokai of a woman that was married. Hence they are clad in a white wedding kimono. But the biggest thing is that they have no face, only a gaping mouth with red lips and blackened teeth to signify marriage. Our particular Ohagoro Batari is in fact a woman who died before she could be married, and in fact she haunts the house her husband would have lived in had he not died on the way to his wedding with her. Now, let's talk about the book in general, shall we? This story overall contains 5 main characters, them being Kat, our point of view character, Philip, a former ex of Kat's, whom now at this point has a sort of awkward, tense relationship with, a very tense friendship. And of course you have Faze, Lynn, and Talia. Faze and Talia are in fact a newly married couple who are wanting to say their vows within a haunted house. Well, at the very least it was requested by Talia. Lynn, on the other hand, is someone who is Kat's best friend, but had seemingly moved on from her for some reason, and at this point was actually married without her knowing. Kat at this point is described as a sort of tragic character. Apparently she had been diagnosed with some terminal illness, and had cut herself off from the outside world for months upon months, and only Philip and Faze had been there to help her out of her funk, to help her actually step out into the light once more. Lynn, on the other hand, had seemingly abandoned her, had just straight up left her and started a new life, and by the time she had emerged back into the sunlight, he was married. So this definitely has a lot of awkward tension, not to mention Faze and Talia are getting newlywed here, but in fact Talia has this sort of jealousy regarding Kat. You can see that they definitely do not like each other all the way throughout. But I definitely liked how this story brings in some Japanese folklore of the Ohagoro Batari itself being the main antagonist, but we also get evidences of tanuki, of kitsunes, a lot of others from Japanese folklore which are mentioned here and there. And I definitely liked how the creepiness factor of this was only added to with the character drama. How as the story goes on, our characters themselves become more and more deranged, with secrets being spilled. Personal secrets that really stretches their friendship, until it results in one death and one character practically going insane. Honestly, this story had me hooked from start to finish. Do I recommend it for a bit of light horror reading? Absolutely. It was very well written, and Cassandra Khaw, though I've never heard of her, definitely knocked this one out of the park. I loved it wholeheartedly, and I definitely recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Japanese folklore, or if you're in the mood for a short story, or if you're just in the mood for a classic ghost story. I will say, Lin was definitely the most sociopathic of the characters. He was the one who wanted to essentially get out of there first, and he seemed to view everyone in the sort of character perspective. He viewed Philip as the protagonist of the story, while he and Kat were essentially the side characters. He wanted to take Kat with him out of there before they wound up killed. But Kat definitely wanted to stay because Philip and Faze were her best friends, the ones who pulled her out when she was stuck in despair. But all in all, it does not help whatsoever. And I will say the ending definitely leaves a small bit of suspense, as it is believed the Ohagoro would have followed them. And honestly, this was, again, a nice peek into Japanese folklore. I might actually check it out for myself more. But let's move on to the scoring, shall we? Overall, I'd have to give Nothing But Blackened Teeth a good solid 10 out of 10 for great writing, interesting characters, and more importantly, the great sense of suspense I felt while reading this. For a horror short story, this one actually wasn't bad. And honestly, I got it for cheap. Bought it at my local Barnes & Noble for $5, with only a coffee to go with it. So all in all, it was definitely a steal. So I would recommend this if you want a bit of Japanese folklore, or if you're just in the mood for a classic ghost story. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and more importantly, stay tuned.